Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a world of felt walls, flickering firelight, and 1,000 years of whispered rules you've probably never heard of. You're about to visit a Mongol gyro, that round portable tent you've seen in travel shows, but never imagined had so many invisible tripwires. The floor creaks beneath your boots. The air smells like boiled mutton wool and a kind of ancient wood smoke that's oddly comforting. Somewhere nearby a horse snorts. You're welcome here. Probably. Unless you forget to bow, or step on the wrong part of the door frame, or use your left hand. In which case, well, you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. I always love reading those. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You arrive at the outskirts of the camp just as twilight spills across the steppe. The landscape is wide and endless with no trees in sight, just the low rhythm of distant hooves and the faint shuffle of felt against rope as the wind teases the tents. Dozens of jurors circle a central fire pit, smoke rising in thin, languid streams toward the lavender sky. The first thing you notice is how quiet everything is. Not silent, there's the occasional bleating of sheep, a snort from a tethered horse, but no shouting, no unnecessary clamor. Mongol camps prized a kind of functional hush, not because they were solemn, but because words were weighted, things used sparingly. Hospitality here wasn't loud or flamboyant, it was sacred. That quiet, that's the sound of respect. Your guide, a stooped older woman with weathered hands and eyes like flint, motions you forward. She doesn't speak, just tilts her head toward one of the jurors. This apparently is your invitation. You approach slowly, feet crunching against the short grass. The juror looms close, its lattice walls wrapped tight in thick felt, the doorframe painted in faded orange and cobalt worn by decades of sun and wind. The whole structure seems both sturdy and weightless, like it could vanish with the right gust. You smell it before you fully enter: smoke and lamb, maybe a trace of juniper if you're romantic about it. There's a low hiss from the central hearth where dung cakes burn with a steady smoldering heat. Your eyes adjust to the gloom. Inside, everything is curved and orderly. A low table, rolled bedding, an altar with a few weathered statues and a string of dried milk curds. Here's your first real lesson: don't blurt "nice place" or stick out your hand. Mongols greet with presence, not performance. You nod low, slow a quiet bow at the waist. If someone meets your eyes, return the gaze gently. Congratulations, you haven't messed up. Yet. Your host, a middle-aged man in a deal robe with silver buttons, gestures you inside. You duck, don't bang your head on the doorframe, that's incredibly unlucky, and step in. You freeze. The warmth hits you like a sleepy wave, along with the overwhelming scent of meat, broth, and wool. The fire crackles softly. A child watches you with total, unblinking curiosity. A dog snoozes near the door, one ear twitching as you enter. You take it all in, the quiet hum of family life, the way light filters through the smoke hole, above the golden gleam on a kettle swinging above the flame. This moment, this simple act of stepping into a Mongol gur was a big deal. Hospitality wasn't just kindness, it was obligation. Even if you were a total stranger, even if your tribe had clashed with theirs last year. Turning someone away from your fire was a kind of moral collapse. Mongol custom said you feed first, ask questions later. You're handed a cup. It's made of wood worn smooth. The contents, it smells faintly sour and aggressively milky. This dear sleeper is your first taste of Arag fermented mare's milk, the champagne of the steppes, and you will drink it, or at least pretend to. Refusing a host's offering here isn't just rude, it's cosmically dumb. You nod again, take a sip. It's lively, fizzy, a little grassy, somehow both comforting and alarming. Historians still argue whether the Mongol obsession with hospitality was a strategic survival tactic or a deeply spiritual mandate, maybe both. In a place where the environment could kill you, warmth was currency. Fire milk shelter, these were sacred exchanges. And now you're in it. You sit on a low cushion to the right of the door, just where guests are supposed to. Not too close to the fire, that's for elders, not too far, that'd be cold and awkward. You glance around, every object has its place. Every movement feels intentional. No one raises their voice. Even the laughter's subdued, like it's meant to float up and out through the smoke hole into the stars. One last thing, don't whistle. Whistling indoors might call evil spirits, and honestly, you've made it this far without summoning any, so let's not start now. The dog lifts its head, briefly yawns, and returns to sleep. You are for now accepted. The first thing you notice as your eyes adjust and the airag settles somewhat uneasily in your stomach is that every single gear in the camp points the same way. South. Always south. It seems oddly uniform for a people known for constant movement, doesn't it? But this is no aesthetic coincidence. This is tradition carved into fabric and smoke, passed down through whispered instruction rather than architectural blueprints. You step outside for a moment, partly to catch a breath of fresh air, and partly to recover from your enthusiastic sip of fizzy horse milk, and glance across the camp. Dozens of jeers, identical in form yet subtly unique in decoration, all face the same direction like round-eyed sunflowers at dawn. The door always faces south. The fire always sits in the center. The altar always graces the northern wall. These aren't feng shui fancies, they're woven into the very etiquette of Mongol life. Facing south serves both practical and spiritual purposes. Practically speaking, the coldest winds howl down from the north. Positioning your doorway away from them keeps the biting chill from pouring directly into your living space. Spiritually, it aligns your jir with the universe. North is sacred, the place of honored ancestors in the spirit world. To turn your back on that, or worse, to face it directly with your muddy boots and awkward backpack would be deeply awkward and possibly haunted. Your host gestures you back inside and you step in once again, ducking carefully, remembering the lesson about headbanging and cosmic disgrace. Inside, the layout now becomes clearer. The GER isn't just a circle, it's a map of relationships and ritual. The southern space near the door, that's for guests, servants, outsiders. That's you, by the way. The western side is usually for the men, the eastern for women. The northernmost part directly opposite the door is the seat of honor. It's where family altars rest, where the head of the household sits, where gifts to the spirits might be placed. And under no circumstances should you plop down there with your boots on and ask what's for dinner. Historians still debate whether this internal compass came from shamanic beliefs, practical migration patterns, or a little of both. What's certain is that every family from common herders to royal kin followed it religiously. Even Genghis Khan's imperial encampments maintained the directional code: north for spirit and strategy, south for speech and supply. You sit quietly in your designated zone, stealing glances around the GER. Every object seems placed with intention. A saddle rests just inside the door, not because it's in use, but because the horse is as much a part of this space as the table or fire. Dried curds are stacked neatly near the hearth. A bow leans carefully in a corner, arrows fanned out like a low-key floral arrangement of potential death. A small child totters past, clutching a ball made from felt scraps and what might be goat hair. The child giggles softly, always softly, and rolls the ball toward the southern door. The ball hits the threshold and stops perfectly centered. The game apparently is over. You reach up slightly to scratch your nose and your host raises an eyebrow. You freeze mid-motion and slowly shift your hand. The left one. Rookie mistake. You switch to the right and the eyebrow settles. You're learning. Your guide leans in and murmurs, "We always know a stranger by where they look first." She smiles, amused but not unkind. Where you look, where you step, which way you turn when entering or leaving. Every gesture, no matter how small, sends a signal. And for a people constantly on the move, who rely on reading weather, terrain, and each other, these signals are everything. You sip your airag, again slowly this time. It's somehow colder now, a little more manageable. The fire pops gently and the smoke curls upward toward the central crown, or tuno, the round opening that lets light in and whispers out the breath of the tent. From outside, a low chant begins, someone tuning their meringue core, the horsehead fiddled sound carrying over the wind like a lullaby for the land. Back in your guest corner, you start to feel the shape of this world. The Jayir isn't a random pile of felt and rope. It's a cosmology, a family in orbit around fire and wind tradition and weather memory and movement. The door faces south so you never forget what's behind you, your ancestors and what lies ahead, your guests, your choices, your path across the steppe, and also because no one wants a snowdrift blowing straight into their breakfast. You're finally starting to relax. The fire has lulled into a gentle rhythmic flicker. You've mastered the subtle art of not sipping too fast, not speaking too loudly, and definitely not scratching yourself with the wrong hand. You're feeling good, confident even. Then comes the door creak. A new visitor. Everyone inside the Jayir subtly shifts, not dramatically, but enough that you notice it. The host glances toward the door. The child pauses their silent game. Even the sleeping dog lifts its head. You expect to come in, or some kind of verbal greeting, but instead there's nothing. Just a moment of silence, and then the door slowly opens. Here's the thing they don't tell you in the travel brochures: entering a Mongol Jayir isn't just walking into a room. It's a test, a ceremony, a moment of social theater with no spoken script, and your performance judged silently by everyone in the tent. The new guest ducks inside, not too fast, not too slowly. They avoid the threshold entirely, stepping cleanly over it. Their right foot enters first. They keep their gaze downward and walk clockwise around the fire, offering a quick nod to the altar at the north wall. Boom! Perfect entrance. You glance at your host. There's the faintest smile. Approval. You think back to your own arrival. Let's just say it was less graceful. You didn't fall or cause an international incident, but you definitely stepped on something you shouldn't have. Maybe the threshold. Maybe your own pride. See, in Mongol tradition, the threshold is sacred. That low wooden beam at the base of the doorway isn't just structural, it's symbolic. It represents the division between the wild world outside and the protected spiritual space within. To step on it is to desecrate that boundary, like tracking mud into a cathedral, but somehow worse. Some believe it insults the house spirits. Others think it invites bad luck. Historians still argue whether this taboo originated from ancient shamanic rites or practical superstition, but either way, you don't mess with the threshold. The guest settles in smoothly. They don't talk yet. Instead, they sit where they should, guest's side near the door. It's an unspoken acknowledgement of status. If they were family, they'd move deeper inside. If they were elderly, they'd be offered a spot closer to the north. If they were a shaman or a noble, the arrangement would shift to accommodate that. But this person, they know their place, and so does everyone else. The host finally speaks a few soft words of welcome, mostly formal. Then silence again. It's not awkward, it's just calm. Like the space doesn't require noise to prove anything. You start to notice how entry into the Jayir is layered with invisible etiquette. Before the guests came in, they'd likely announced themselves outside the tent, not by shouting, but by clearing their throats softly or jingling something to signal their approach. Dogs were the original doorbells. If the family was home, someone might shift the latch or more often simply prepare mentally for the arrival. In a world without keys or intercoms, entering a home was more like entering a shared dream. You didn't barge in. You folded yourself gently into the rhythm already humming inside. Your guide leans towards you again and whispers, "When you go out, always leave clockwise." You nod. It seems even departure is choreographed. Why clockwise? Because in Mongol cosmology, the sun's path is sacred. Moving clockwise, known as sunwise, is thought to bring harmony, blessings, and continuity. Go counterclockwise, and you're basically daring the spirits to mess with your livestock or your digestion. You glance again at the new guest who is now slowly being handed a cup of arag. They take it with two hands always polite and bow slightly as they accept. Not a word yet, just eyes, nods, gestures. It's all so quiet, so slow, like time inside the G-year runs on a different clock, and maybe it does. Out on the step with no cities or deadlines, everything stretches. There's no rush to fill silences, no pressure to entertain or impress, just the rhythm of fire milk breath and presence. Your host catches your gaze and says, "You learn quickly." Most don't. Then after a pause he adds, "But you still stepped on the threshold." You both laugh gently, of course. You're settling in now, starting to feel like part of the G-era, instead of a misplaced backpacker with good intentions and bad reflexes. But just as you're feeling confident again, dangerously confident, you stretch your legs a little too far and feel the edge of your heel graze something. Something wooden, something low, something unfortunately threshold-shaped. Everyone notices. No one says a word. The dog sighs heavily, as if to say, "We were all rooting for you." The host, still smiling politely, stirs the kettle. "It's fine. Mostly. You didn't stomp on the threshold, you just nudged it. But even that's enough to reawaken your awareness. The threshold isn't just a board. It's practically a character in the household. Silent, unmoving, but full of opinion. You tuck your feet back underneath you and sit still. Very still. Stepping or even touching the threshold of a Mongol deer is more than bad manners. It's a symbolic breach. Ancient Mongol belief holds that the threshold marks the passage between the world outside wild, unpredictable, and full of wind, and the world inside protected, familial, and firelit. Spirits live here, especially the spirits of ancestors, and they don't like being stepped on. In fact, there's a tradition that says if a child steps on the threshold, their parents must perform a small ritual to ask forgiveness from the spirits. Some families whisper over juniper smoke. Others sprinkle a bit of milk at the entrance. Either way, it's not taken lightly. Historians still debate how widespread or uniform these rituals were, or if they evolved differently among various tribes. Some argue that the threshold taboo was deeply shamanic, rooted in animist beliefs about sacred boundaries. Others suggest it's just practical respect for a structure constantly being packed, unpacked, and rebuilt on the move. Either way, you don't step on it. You remember stories your guide shared earlier, how young warriors were once tested by how well they remembered household etiquette before being considered ready for battle. It wasn't just about swordsmanship or riding. If you couldn't remember which hand to use or how to treat a hearth, what business did you have leading others? Your host finally breaks the tension by offering a second round of arak. This time it's warm, slightly more sour, but somehow more comforting. You accept it with both hands, this much you've learned, and offer a gentle bow of thanks. You're rewarded with a nod. No one mentions the threshold incident, but the lesson hangs in the air heavier than the smoke curling toward the tunnel above. You shift your gaze upward. The center of the roof, where wooden poles radiate from a central crown, creates a circular window to the sky. The smoke hole. It's not just ventilation. It's the eye of the G-year, always watching, always connecting the earthly and the divine. Some Mongols believe that spirits enter and exit through the tunnel. It's why nothing ever hangs from it, and why you never point at it or toss anything upward. The space above the fire is sacred, a spiritual chimney, if you will. Just below that sacred space, the hearth crackles softly. The kettle swings gently. A piece of dung fuel hisses as it burns. Someone speaks. The guest who had entered earlier with such perfect form finally joins the conversation. Quietly, respectfully, about the weather. Weather is always a safe topic. It's never just small talk, it's shared fate. A sudden frost could kill the herd. A dry season could mean moving camp early. Everyone's life spins on the same wheel of wind and temperature. You listen, and slowly the conversation drifts. Soft laughter, low voices. A joke is shared that you don't quite understand, but you chuckle anyway. Not too loud. Just enough to say, "I'm here, I'm listening. I respect this space." Then another small test. The guest offers you something, a piece of dried cheese curd called arul. It's hard as stone and shaped vaguely like a smiling comma. It could break your teeth if you're not careful. You take it with your right hand, good, and bow your head slightly better. The taste is sharp, sour, and chewy in a way that defies physics. But you chew it not approvingly and pretend your jaw isn't staging a protest. You pass. A younger girl in the family, maybe 13, slips out of the GR. She doesn't say goodbye. She doesn't need to. Just a slight lean toward her grandmother, a quiet exit clockwise through the southern door. Everyone notices. No one speaks. Etiquette here isn't about rules. It's about rhythms. You don't memorize a list, you learn the music. The beat of the fire, the pause of the host before serving, the eye contact before offering a bowl. Even the dog seems to follow the tune, repositioning itself without causing a stir. As night deepens outside, the GR seems to grow warmer, cozier, more alive. The fire crackles in soft agreement. You glance again at the threshold. You didn't mean to step on it, but now you'll never forget it. Because here doors don't slam, voices don't rise, and lessons they arrive quietly. You've survived the fermented milk, the cheese rock, and your minor threshold scandal. But now comes another moment of quiet panic. Where do you sit? Not just now in this moment, but what if you return? What if more guests arrive? What if someone asks you to scoot over and you accidentally plop yourself into the spiritual epicenter of the household, next to a shrine of ancestral bones and quietly frowning elders? It's more complicated than musical chairs. In a Mongol chair, where you sit isn't a casual choice. It's a subtle declaration of your social standing, age, gender, and even your spiritual cleanliness. Which sounds dramatic, but when you're dealing with centuries of tradition and the occasional shamanic curse, it starts to make a bit more sense. You glance around the GR again. The structure is still the same, circular, symmetrical, warm, but the seating is strategic. Let's break it down. You, the guest, are positioned near the south side, close to the door. That's the designated guest area, and it's not just for you, it's for anyone considered an outsider. Travelers, visiting in-laws, stray diplomats, people who haven't proven themselves worthy of deeper seating. It's not an insult, it's just a gentle spatial reminder that you're not family. Yet, to your left, along the east wall, sit the women of the household. That's the traditional women's side, associated with food preparation, domestic duties, and interestingly, milk. The churn, the cooking pots, and often the family's milk pail are stored here along with the tools used for making cheese and butter. The east is also connected with the rising sunlight, fertility beginnings. To your right on the west side, the men sit. This is the side where weapons, saddles, and tools are kept. The male head of household may rest here unless someone more important like a shaman or an elder arrives. In that case, the western side shifts into a kind of VIP lounge and the regulars politely scoot. At the very back of the GR, due north, is the most sacred spot. This is where the family altar lives. It might be a modest shelf with a few carvings and bits of incense, or a full-fledged shrine decorated with blue kadak, scarves, horsehair, and small bowls of milk. No one, not even the family dog, sits directly in front of this spot unless they're explicitly invited. It's the spiritual engine of the GR. So to recap, south for strangers, east for women, west for men, north for the ancestors, and center for the fire. Which means your butt placement is more than comfort, it's cultural choreography. Historians still argue whether these arrangements were consistent across all Mongol tribes or if they varied based on lineage, status, and regional practice. But the general rules remain surprisingly intact even today. Modern Mongolian households, whether in traditional jurs or concrete apartments, still carry echoes of this spatial language. You walk into someone's home and your body knows where not to go. You still nestled politely on the southern side, shift your weight slightly just to ease your left hip not to claim territory. The child from earlier is now sprawled next to you, playing with a string and bone game that seems like a mix between cat's cradle and very sleepy fencing. The older guest who entered earlier with grace and near mystical calm is slowly chewing on bortzog, a type of fried dough that tastes like a cross between a donut and a cloud. They offer you one. You take it with your right hand. Good. You bow slightly. Excellent. You do not move closer to the altar. Perfect. Your host, noticing your impeccable restraint, beams approvingly and says you're ready for the next level. You laugh softly, but also are you, because with great seating comes great responsibility. If you were ever offered a seat closer to the altar, say during a ceremony or a formal visit, the expectations would shift. Your posture, your tone, even how you hold your cup, all of it would be watched. The GR is small, but socially it's enormous. It's also strangely comfortable. The structure hums with rules, but those rules create calm. Everyone knows what to do, where to sit, when to speak. It's like a blanket made of etiquette, and it tucks you in without suffocating you. You lean back slightly, letting the fire's warmth soak into your spine. The walls curve gently around you, cocooning without closing in. The child beside you finally wins their bone string game and celebrates with a whisper that sounds like victory and nap time all at once. You glance at the western side of the deer. There, hanging from a wooden peg, is a bow wrapped in leather. Below it, a saddle blanket. Someone has draped a carved horsewhip carefully over the edge. Everything is arranged just so. Even the weapons are resting in their rightful seats. No one tells you to sit still, but you do. Not because you're afraid of making a mistake anymore, but because you've started to feel the rhythm of the place. The choreography, the unspoken script. And besides, you've just realized something important. You're not sitting in the gear. You're sitting with it. You've navigated seating arrangements, thresholds, and even the tricky business of dry cheese diplomacy. Just as you start to ease comfortably into the peaceful rhythm, the host catches your eye, and you brace yourself as he lifts a carved wooden bowl towards you. It's another round of Arag fermented mare's milk, the ultimate Mongol test of character and courtesy. This time, though, there's something slightly different. The bowl itself is beautifully ornate, polished to a deep shine by countless hands over countless generations. It's not simply a container, it's practically sacred. Refusing it outright would be like declining tea at Buckingham Palace or pizza in Naples. It's theoretically possible, but it definitely won't make you any friends. You gently reach out with both hands, always both hands, and accept the bowl with a subtle bow. The host nods approvingly. The GR seems to collectively exhale. Good job, you've cleared the etiquette hurdle. Now about actually drinking the stuff. Arag is no simple beverage. Mongols have been fermenting mare's milk into this mildly alcoholic concoction for thousands of years. It's not just a drink, it's a cornerstone of hospitality, a nutritional staple and a symbol of unity. Historically, warriors would share arag before battle, believing it brought strength and courage. Families drank it daily, believing in its medicinal properties. It's high in vitamins, probiotics, and courage-inducing microbes, or at least that's what you've decided to tell yourself. The taste is complex. Tart, tangy, slightly sour with a faint grassy aftertaste. Fizzy like soda, but thicker. Think yogurt meets champagne served warm. You take a tiny, cautious sip. Everyone watches discreetly, pretending not to notice your reaction. You nod enthusiastically, but not too enthusiastically, and the host smiles again. Disaster averted. Yet the etiquette around arag isn't just about drinking it. It's how you handle the bowl itself. After you sip, tradition dictates that you offer it back, always with your right hand, always with a slight tilt to the bowl, never pointing the rim directly at anyone's face. Why the tilt? Historians still debate whether it symbolizes humility or is just practical advice to prevent splashing milk on your host's steel. Your host takes the bowl back, sips carefully, and passes it on. It moves around the gear clockwise, as everything must, each person taking a respectful taste. Even the child receives a symbolic sip, though hers is smaller, and accompanied by a playful grimace she doesn't quite hide. It's a circle of shared experience, unspoken trust, and communal health Mongol culture, distilled into a single wooden bowl. Once the bowl returns to your host, he murmurs softly, "Good arag today." and everyone agrees quietly. You suspect it tastes the same every day, but here's another secret you've learned tonight. It's never really about the milk. Just as you start to relax again, someone reaches for a fresh kettle of tea from the hearth. You notice something peculiar. They pour a few drops of arag into the tea, swirling gently. You raise an eyebrow, curious. Your guide sees your confusion and whispers discreetly, "It honors the ancestors." Of course, because here even drinks come with footnotes and cultural side quests. Adding arag to tea isn't about flavor, although it's surprisingly good. It's a subtle ritual, a gentle nod to the generations who came before those whose hands churned milk, braided horsehair, and lived under the endless sky. Even drinking tea can be sacred if you do it right. You sip your own tea quietly, savoring the warm, milky comfort. And slowly you realize why this matters so much. Mongol life was always in motion. Families moved constantly, packing and unpacking their entire world into carts and onto horses. Stability couldn't be found in place or permanence, but in ritual. Hospitality rituals like arag drinking ceremonies weren't just about manners, they were the roots holding the nomadic culture steady in an ever-shifting landscape. Outside, the Jir wind whistles faintly. You picture vast grasslands under moonlight, horses grazing softly, and 1,000 similar Jirs dotting the endless horizon, all performing similar small ceremonies. Bowls, passing hands, nods, exchanged ancestors quietly remembered. The rhythm of nomad life timelessly repeated. Your host, perhaps sensing your deep thoughts, leans closer. Next round, he asks, a playful glint in his eye. You grin politely and nod. You've learned to appreciate the ritual, the communal hum of shared moments. Another round won't hurt, well, at least not socially. As the arag circles again, you marvel at the quiet strength of these rituals. Simple gestures, softly spoken words, subtle movements. No fireworks or fanfare, just ordinary actions infused with extraordinary significance. You accept the bowl again, confident this time. Maybe you don't love fermented horse milk yet, but you do love the rhythm, the soft whispers, the gentle laughter, the low hum of history surrounding you. And suddenly you understand why your host said good arag today. It was never about the drink itself, but the act of sharing it, the soft sounds of etiquette performed correctly, the whispered pride of a tradition upheld for another night. You take a long, slow sip, savoring the fizz and tang. It's growing on you, or maybe the GR is working its gentle magic. Either way, you're fully part of the moment. The dog sighs softly again, contentedly. You know exactly how he feels. After conquering the arag ritual twice now, good job, you're beginning to feel like you've got this whole Jir etiquette down. That's about the time your host hands you a bowl of stew with a casual gesture that says, "I trust you won't embarrass us this time." And like everything else here, this comes with its own set of quietly whispered rules. The stew itself smells delicious, rich, warm, and earthy, filled with chunks of mutton, potatoes, wild onions, and possibly something else you can't quite identify. It's steaming softly, the scent rising to mix with wood smoke on wool. You accept the bowl with both hands. By now you're practically a professional and nod your gratitude. But here's where it gets tricky again. Mongol dining etiquette isn't just about what you eat, but how you eat it. Specifically, the hand you use matters a lot. The right hand is reserved for clean, respectful tasks, eating passing objects and gestures of greeting. The left hand, meanwhile, is traditionally viewed as unclean. It's fine for certain tasks like holding a bowl steady, but you would never offer or accept something using only your left hand unless you want to risk starting a silent but intensely awkward feud. You carefully hold the bowl in your left hand, freeing your right to handle the spoon. You stir gently, testing the temperature. Your host watches discreetly, approving of your caution. After all, etiquette is mostly about consideration, and not burning your tongue is just common sense. Now utensils themselves also have their own choreography. Mongol spoons tend to be simple but thoughtfully carved, often wooden, sometimes silver if the family is especially prosperous. You stir once more and take a bite. It's delicious. Savory, rich, hearty, the kind of meal you dream about after a day spent on horseback in open winds. Halfway through your second bite, you glance across the gyre and notice another guest passing a small knife handle, first to someone else. They hold it gently by the blade, gripping carefully so as not to cause harm. You remember your guide's earlier whispered instruction: never hand someone a knife blade first. Doing so could be interpreted as aggression, insult, or even an invitation to a duel. And let's face it, you're not winning any duels here. Historians still debate whether these traditions around knives originated purely from practical concerns, handing blades safely to avoid injury, or deeper symbolic meanings about honor, trust, and betrayal. But either way, you won't risk getting this wrong. You watch as the recipient accepts the knife carefully, nodding respectfully, the transaction smooth and silent. The subtle elegance of the motion reminds you that even small gestures here have enormous significance. Back to your stew. Now comes another quiet etiquette moment. Don't point your spoon at anyone, even casually. It might seem innocent, maybe you're telling a particularly good joke and forget. But in the gyre, pointing utensils is roughly as polite as waving a sword around at dinner. Keep spoons low, bowl steady, and movements gentle. Another small quirk: don't clean the bowl completely. Yes, really. Leaving a small amount of food behind isn't wasteful, it's respectful. Clearing your bowl entirely can unintentionally suggest your host hasn't provided enough food, hinting subtly that their hospitality falls short. So even if that stew is amazing, hold yourself back from scraping the bowl clean. Leave a morsel behind as an unspoken compliment to your host's generosity. You glance again at your host. He meets your eyes, sees you have left precisely one bite at the bottom, and smiles knowingly. You're definitely getting good at this. Meanwhile, the guest across from you quietly finishes their stew. They set down the bowl and with perfect form place their spoon inside without a clink or scrape. You follow suit. Your spoon rests gently inside your bowl. No noise, no mess. But there's another subtle challenge coming your way. Your host's grandmother quietly rises to serve tea. She's elderly, her movements slow, yet graceful, each step deliberate. As she pours steaming tea into small cups, you notice a tiny detail: she never fills the cup completely. Leaving space at the top symbolizes humility, generosity, and respect. It ensures the guest can hold it without spilling. You accept the tea with both hands, gently tilting your head forward in gratitude, and remember, always sip quietly. Slurping tea noisily might be a compliment in some cultures, but not here. Mongol tea drinking etiquette mirrors the gear itself: quiet, gentle, careful, deliberate. You take a sip, savoring the warm blend of tea, salt, and milk. Then comes one final tiny etiquette dance. Your host reaches for bread. It's soft, freshly baked, smelling faintly of grass and smoke. He tears off a piece, gently offering it to you. You accept, carefully avoiding direct hand contact as he places it in your palm. Direct touch during food exchange, especially between unrelated people of opposite genders, is usually avoided out of respect and modesty. You taste the bread, warm, subtly sweet, comforting. A perfect complement to the stew and tea, each bite tying you more deeply into the fabric of this gyre and its gentle rituals. As the meal winds down, conversation begins again. Still quiet, still measured, punctuated with occasional soft laughter. A guest shares a small anecdote about a horse race. Another mentions weather changes coming soon, and your host quietly speculates on next season's grazing plans. Every word, gesture, and silence feels thoughtful, measured, intentional. You lean back, satisfied in more ways than one. You've eaten deliciously, navigated tricky utensils, and even managed to compliment your host's cooking without words. Not bad for someone who recently mistook fermented milk for poison. The fire crackles softly again, the embers glowing like tiny suns. Outside, the steppe wind whistles quietly, a comforting lullaby humming gently against the gyre walls. And inside this carefully woven circle, beneath the watchful eye of ancestors and etiquette alike, you finally understand Mongol tent life isn't merely about rules or restrictions. It's about harmony, balance, respect, and yes, remembering not to hand knives blade first. The fire has settled into a low, comforting glow, its gentle crackle blending softly with the whispers and occasional rustle of felt walls. As you shift gently on your cushion, you realize just how quiet the air truly is. Not empty silence, but rich, deliberate quietness. Mongol tent life thrives in this subtle hush, and as you sink deeper into it, you notice how carefully the inhabitants speak, how softly they laugh, how intentionally every sound is managed. Historically, Mongol life was filled with noise horses, galloping warriors shouting, livestock bleating, but within the jeer itself, loudness was a rare intruder. A jeer is an acoustic miracle. Its circular, felt-covered walls naturally dampen sound-wrapping conversations in an intimate hush. Shouting or unnecessary noise would disrupt this calm, intimate atmosphere, which is precisely why etiquette dictated soft voices, whispers, and carefully controlled laughter. In other words, Mongol gurs weren't just homes, they were quiet sanctuaries amid the expansive, noisy steppe. As you sit comfortably, taking in this gentle rhythm, your host begins a softly spoken story. His voice is deep but measured, resonating gently around the tent without overpowering it. He recounts tales of old hunts, quiet evenings under starlit skies, and humorous misadventures involving stubborn yaks. Each story invites polite chuckles, gentle smiles, and the occasional whispered comment from others present. You're struck by how the stories aren't made to dominate attention, but to blend seamlessly into the jeer's soft sonic tapestry. You realize the storytelling itself is part of Mongol etiquette, a quiet entertainment, a gentle thread connecting generations and guests alike. A lull settles again, and you glance upward toward the jeer's ceiling. Earlier you learned the tuna or smoke hole is sacred. Now as your eyes wander that direction, you notice another subtlety. The poles radiating outward aren't just structural, they symbolize the jeer's connection to nature. Traditionally, these roof poles were associated with the sky gods. Whispered prayers sometimes accompanied their assembly, especially during important moments such as moving camp or welcoming a new family member. Your guide catches your wandering glance and softly explains, "We whisper here because the jeer listens." You smile, not quite sure if it's a gentle joke or literal belief, perhaps both. In Mongol traditions, spirits were never distant or abstract. Ancestors lingered close, inhabiting objects, spaces, even sounds. Quietness was a sign of respect, not just toward other humans, but toward these ever-present spirits. To be loud, disruptive, or inconsiderate was to risk angering them, or worse, waking them prematurely from peaceful slumber. Historians still debate the precise origin of Mongol quietness. Was it born from shamanistic traditions, practical acoustic needs, or simply from the deep psychological calm of nomadic life? Whatever the reason, the tradition persisted generation after generation. You glance over at the youngest member of the family, the child who had earlier won her bone and string game. She's now carefully braiding a small length of wool, quietly humming a tune under her breath. Even her humming is soft, barely audible, blending perfectly with the jeer's acoustic warmth. Your eyes shift slightly to an elderly woman sitting near the northern altar. She's humming too, though hers is even softer, barely noticeable unless you pay close attention. It seems singing or humming quietly was allowed, provided it matched the jeer's peaceful tone. Suddenly, the dog near the door shifts slightly, making a soft grumbling noise before settling again. You notice several gentle smiles appear around the room. Even animal noises seem carefully moderated, as if the dog instinctively understands the quiet code. Another subtle rule emerges from the whispers. Interrupting is almost unheard of here. Conversations flow slowly with generous pauses. Speaking over someone else, even softly, is considered deeply disrespectful. Instead, the jeer offers space and silence, allowing ideas to breathe before responding. You recall how earlier your host paused briefly before answering your questions, not because he lacked an immediate answer, but because etiquette dictated that he honor the rhythm of thoughtful conversation. Haste was discouraged. Patience and contemplation were deeply valued. Someone passes a small bowl of dried berries around. You accept them carefully, cradling the bowl in both hands. now practically automatic, and take a few berries quietly. Even chewing feels like a sound you should manage carefully. Thankfully, dried berries don't crunch loudly, so you maintain your etiquette dignity. Outside, the wind picks up slightly, rustling softly against the GR's felt walls. It's a comforting, gentle sound, nature's quiet applause joining the GR's careful symphony of whispers, murmurs, and crackling flames. You realize how deeply calming all of this quietness is, how restorative it feels after the constant noise of your everyday life. The whispered etiquette here isn't restrictive. It's a gift, a form of profound respect that creates a cocoon of peace around every inhabitant. Your host quietly rises and steps toward the altar. Carefully, almost reverently, he adjusts a small silk scarf draped across an ancestral figurine. It's a delicate movement, slow and silent, a gentle reminder that Mongol quietness isn't just practical, it's deeply spiritual. He returns silently to his place, settling with practiced grace. You feel increasingly comfortable in this soft world of whispers, the etiquette now second nature. The fire's glow flickers softly, casting gentle shadows on the GR's walls, shapes shifting slowly and quietly. Tonight you've learned many etiquette rules, thresholds, arag bowls, seating arrangements, but perhaps this gentle quietness is the most important. A quiet GR fosters clear minds, close connections, and deep respect. Each softly spoken word holds meaning. Each whisper communicates care. Your eyelids feel heavier now. The GR's gentle whispers, the soft crackle of flames, the careful movements of its occupants all blend into a lullaby of cultural harmony. Before you drift into sleep, your host catches your eye, smiles softly, and whispers barely audible, "You're learning quickly." Indeed you are. You've eased deeply into the quiet pulse of your life, adapting gracefully to whispered conversations and delicate movements. But as your gaze wanders comfortably around the softly glowing room, your attention catches on something intriguing. Hair. Specifically the way everyone's hair here seems so carefully arranged, braided, tied, or covered. It dawns on you, just like seating arrangements, doorway etiquette, and whispered conversations, hair and headgear in Mongol tent life come with their own quietly powerful symbolism. Your hairstyle, hat, or head covering isn't simply fashion, it's identity, lineage, status, and even marital condition woven softly together. Across from you, the elderly woman gently adjusts her head, covering a carefully wrapped scarf embroidered with delicate patterns. It's subtle, beautiful, dignified. Beside her, a younger woman's hair falls down her back in long, tight braids, each carefully adorned with colorful ribbons. She quietly adjusts one braid, careful not to disturb its neat pattern. In traditional Mongol society, women's hairstyles communicated more than just beauty. They spoke of age, marital status, and family role. Young, unmarried women often wore their hair in multiple slender braids, signaling their availability for marriage. Each braid, wrapped with ribbons signifying hopes, dreams, or wishes for prosperity. Once married women typically combined their braids into two larger ones, symbolizing unity with their husband's family. Elderly women, like the grandmother now gently sipping tea, often wore their hair tucked neatly beneath scarves, a quiet symbol of respect, wisdom, and dignity. Historians still debate precisely how rigid these hair traditions were, whether every tribe followed identical patterns, or if there were subtle regional variations. Regardless, hair was always more than mere decoration. It was a subtle yet clear social marker. You glance over at the male members of the GER. The older men wear simple but dignified hats, their hair cut short beneath. Traditionally, Mongol men kept their hair shorter, after marriage neatly tucked beneath hats, often made from wool, leather, or felt. Younger men, unmarried warriors especially, often sported longer hair carefully tied back, or sometimes loosely braided as a display of youthful strength and freedom. The young man across from you fits this description perfectly. His long hair tied back loosely, a quiet nod toward tradition and pride in youthful strength. Yet even in the quiet of the GR, he wears a hat gently tilted back. Removing one's hat completely in the GR was common except in certain situations, like when greeting elders or entering sacred spaces. Leaving it tilted slightly as he does suggests relaxed respect. You glance toward your own headwear and suddenly wonder if you've accidentally sent a message you weren't aware of. Your guide notices your brief moment of panic, smiles softly and gently whispers, "Relax, you're fine." Your hat says, "Visitor." Nothing more. You breathe a quiet sigh of relief. But head coverings didn't just communicate marital status or age, they were practical. Mongolia's notoriously harsh climate meant hats and scarves were essential for protection against biting winds, extreme cold, and fierce sun. Over generations, necessity and symbolism softly merged into tradition. Your host rises, slowly walks toward the altar, and quietly places a small ceremonial hat on one of the figurines representing ancestors. It's a respectful gesture honoring the spirit through symbolic clothing. Head coverings weren't limited to living beings. Ancestor figurines and sacred objects often wore symbolic hats or scarves, quietly emphasizing their status and significance. Now, as you settle deeper into this soft rhythm, another quiet tradition emerges. Touching someone else's hat or hair without permission is considered disrespectful even between family members. Personal space extended to head coverings. Even the youngest children knew this unspoken boundary. It wasn't simply etiquette, it was respect for the personal dignity and spiritual significance carried in head coverings and hairstyles. As you gently observe, a child sitting nearby carefully unties her hair ribbons, preparing for bedtime. Her mother gently helps comb the braids out, whispering softly to her. The gentle act itself speaks volumes, bonding through shared quietness and careful handling of hair, an intimate family ritual performed nightly. Meanwhile, your host's grandmother softly reties her headscarf, each fold precise, slow, and dignified. You watch, fascinated by the subtlety of her movements. Her scarf, woven with delicate patterns, carries meaning, perhaps indicating her clan family or simply personal history. You suspect each carefully embroidered line holds a quiet, significant memory, whispering stories of past generations. Then your host quietly approaches the hearth, removing his hat briefly to run fingers through his short hair. The gesture seems simple, but it communicates quiet respect, humility, and gratitude toward the fire and ancestors. You find yourself unconsciously adjusting your own headwear again, quietly aware now of its subtle meaning. Your host catches your small gesture and smiles gently, quietly, amused by your newfound sensitivity. He leans closer, whispering softly, "See, even hats whisper secrets here." You smile back softly, appreciating the gentle joke and the deeper truth beneath. Outside, wind whispers softly against the GR walls, a gentle reminder of the vast openness beyond. Inside, the soft crackling fire and whispered conversations continue their subtle rhythms. The GR feels increasingly like a gentle, intimate sanctuary, each quiet detail, even hairstyles, carefully choreographed, respectful, intentional. Tonight you've learned much threshold etiquette, careful seating, quiet conversations, the delicate handling of air-rag bowls, even precise hairstyles. But above all, you've learned to listen to the GR, to the silence, and to the quiet messages whispered softly in hairstyles, hats, scarves, and subtle glances. Your eyelids feel gently heavy again, sleep softly approaching, guided by the quiet rhythms of dear life. Hair rituals, whispered traditions, quiet movements, all blending into a lullaby of cultural harmony. As you drift slowly towards sleep, the fire softly whispers the deer, breathes quietly, and the gentle rituals continue unspoken, soft, timeless. And tonight, nestled within these softly whispering felt walls, you too are quietly woven into their story. The jeer is comfortably dim now, its gentle warmth wrapped around you like the soft felt walls themselves. As conversation quiets to almost total silence, your host gestures gently towards something placed carefully on the small wooden table, a collection of smooth white objects that seem to gleam faintly in the firelight. Curious, you lean forward to get a better look. Sheep bones, small polished, carefully kept, are spread out like precious gems. Your host catches your puzzled expression, smiles softly, and whispers, "Games." Jeer life isn't just about rules, rituals, and whispered etiquette. Even relaxation and leisure had their own gentle guidelines, and Mongol Jeer games were carefully calibrated for quiet, respectful fun. Games, involving shouting or vigorous competition were less common indoors, replaced instead by soft, thoughtful contests perfect for the Jier's peaceful atmosphere. The bones before you aren't random, they're carefully selected traditionally. Ankle bones of sheep or goats called shagai. Mongol families treasured these small bones, polished smooth through generations of handling, using them for divination luck, and most frequently gentle games played in the quiet evenings by firelight. Your host picks up the bones and rolls them quietly across the table's surface, their soft clicking strangely soothing. Each bone lands in a unique orientation, each representing animals like horses, sheep, camels, or goats. The goal is simple but deceptively challenging players. Flick bones gently at each other, trying to capture matches. There's skill involved certainly, but also patience, calmness, precision. You watch quietly as the game unfolds. The older guest, calm and patient, quietly assesses the bones' arrangement, his fingers moving gently, precisely, flicking one toward another. The bones spin softly across the table, landing exactly as intended. There's a silent nod of acknowledgement from your host, appreciation for skill displayed without fuss or fanfare. Your turn arrives. You gently roll the bones, feeling their cool, polished surfaces in your palm. You flick carefully, but the bone spins slightly wide, missing its target. There's a polite ripple of quiet laughter, not mocking, just acknowledging your rookie enthusiasm. Historically, shagai games were more than entertainment. Mongol nomads often believed these bones possessed protective or predictive powers. They sometimes cast them to read signs, hoping the bones might gently whisper future secrets, good luck, good weather, healthy livestock. Historians still debate how widely such beliefs were practiced, but the gentle superstition undeniably blended with simple joy and relaxation. Your host's grandmother quietly gathers a few bones in her hand, whispers something soft, perhaps a prayer or blessing, and carefully places them back on the table. The gentle gesture hints at deeper meanings quietly preserved through generations. Other Jir games existed too, each just as quiet, each carefully tailored to fit the peaceful atmosphere. There were soft songs sung in hushed voices, poetic riddles whispered playfully, and even silent storytelling competitions where tales were told using minimal words and expressive gestures. The key was never about winning loudly, but about gentle connection and quiet enjoyment. Tonight's shagai game continues gently, bones, clicking softly, quiet laughter, nods of appreciation, murmurs of approval. Even the small child participates carefully, her tiny fingers flicking bones, softly, her focus quietly intense. Each player receives gentle applause, soft smiles, whispered encouragement, no matter skill level or age. A sudden thought crosses your mind. This gentle competition is exactly how etiquette is learned here through practice. Gentle corrections, whispered encouragement. Etiquette, like shagai skills, is perfected quietly, gradually, with patience. Another bone spins softly across the table. Your host catches your gaze, smiling softly, and whispers, improving quickly. You nod gently, grateful for the quiet encouragement. Even Jir children learned etiquette through games, absorbing quiet lessons in respect, patience, precision. Softly spoken rules gently embedded themselves into daily play, ensuring etiquette became second nature by adulthood. Now, as the game slowly winds down, bones carefully return to their small embroidered bag. You reflect quietly on this gentle learning. It isn't forced, no shouting, no reprimands, just quiet guidance, gentle corrections, patient repetitions. Mongol etiquette thrives precisely because it's gently taught, softly encouraged, quietly practiced. Outside, night has settled deeply. Stars gently illuminate the vast steppe beyond the Jir, moonlight softly bathing everything in silver hues. The fire inside the Jir burns lower, now embers softly glowing, like tiny stars fallen gently into the hearth. Your host rises silently, placing the bag of bones carefully onto a small shelf, treating it with quiet reverence. It's not just a game, it's heritage, tradition gently preserved through whispered lessons and quiet play. The elderly woman moves slowly to her bedroll, gently humming again, soft, barely audible. The sound blends perfectly into the Jir's quiet tapestry. Soon others quietly begin preparing for rest. rolling bedding softly, whispering good nights, each gesture slow, deliberate, respectful of shared space. You shift gently, careful not to disturb the GR's peaceful rhythm. Etiquette, you realize, also includes sleep preparation, quiet movements, gentle whispers, respect for others' rest. Mongol tent life never pauses its etiquette, even sleep is softly choreographed. Your host approaches quietly, whispers gently, "Rest now, friend. Tomorrow more lessons." You smile softly in reply, nodding appreciatively. Tonight's gentle games, whispered conversations, and quiet etiquette have exhausted you pleasantly. Slowly you lay down, sinking softly into your bedding, feeling the gentle warmth of felt beneath you, the gyr softly holding you in its embrace. Your eyelids gently close, sleep softly approaching, carried by quiet whispers, gentle movements, and the soft rhythm of gyr life itself. Tonight you've played, quietly learned patiently, and understood deeply the whispered etiquette of Mongol tent life isn't restrictive, it's beautifully protective. Each gentle rule shields relationships, community, dignity. As sleep softly claims you, you hear one final whisper barely audible from your host, "Sweet dreams." Indeed, sweet and gentle dreams await you. Sleep comes close, gently drawing you in, but before your eyes fully close, something catches your attention again. The soft glow of the central hearth, the heart of every Mongol gyr. You've seen this fire throughout the evening, enjoyed its warmth, heard its soft crackle, but you now realize it's much more than just a practical heat source. The fire itself has quietly presided over every ritual meal and whispered conversation you have had tonight. In Mongol tent life, fire isn't merely functional, it's sacred, central to household etiquette, spirituality, and even family dynamics. Every gyr fire is carefully tended, quietly respected, never casually dismissed. It's a gentle guardian, softly watching over inhabitants, guests, ancestors, and even spirits themselves. You gaze into the embers glowing softly like captured stars. The hearth, traditionally situated exactly in the GR's center, symbolizes unity, family gathered around it, equally warmed and illuminated. Unlike Western homes where fireplaces are often decorative or practical afterthoughts, the GR fire quietly shapes every interaction, ritual, and daily activity. Your host gently rises and softly approaches the hearth, whispering something barely audible, a quiet prayer perhaps, or respectful acknowledgement of ancestors. With deliberate gentleness, he carefully adds another small dung cake to the flames. The fire softly flares, briefly brightening the GR, casting gentle shadows onto felt walls. You watch closely, feeling suddenly aware of the fire's quiet significance. Dung cakes may seem unusual to you. Dried animal dung used as fuel, but on Mongolia's expansive treeless steppes, wood is scarce. Animal dung dried thoroughly and carefully stacked became essential, practical, sustainable. Its soft, steady burn provided warmth, cooking heat, and spiritual symbolism, quietly linking people, livestock, nature, and the sacred. Historians still debate precisely how fire symbolism emerged among Mongol tribes. Was it purely practical, deeply spiritual, or a quiet blend of both? Whatever the reason, Mongol gyr fires hold powerful, subtle significance even today. Your host softly murmurs again, gently scattering a few drops of tea or milk near the fire's edge. It's a quiet ritual performed without fuss or fanfare, simply a gentle offering to the hearth's spirit's ancestors and nature itself. Such subtle gestures occur regularly, quietly preserving traditions, gently maintaining spiritual balance within gyr life. As you watch the fire gently flicker, you recall earlier lessons: never point your feet toward the hearth. Feet, being lowest and considered least clean, must remain respectfully positioned away from the sacred flames. Even sleeping arrangements adhere carefully to this quiet rule. Beds positioned so feet naturally angle away from the central fire. You glance around now, realizing everyone's bedding is arranged precisely this way, each occupant softly honoring fire etiquette even in sleep. Your host quietly nods, noticing your careful observation. "Fire," he whispers softly, "protects and binds us." Indeed it does. The fire's gentle warmth binds families, community, guests, and ancestors softly together, its quiet glow symbolizing harmony, unity, respectful relationships. A gyre without a hearth would feel incomplete cold, not just physically but spiritually, culturally empty. You recall stories your guide whispered earlier, mentioning ancient rituals where newborn children were gently presented to household fires, softly introducing infants to ancestral spirits, asking fire to quietly protect, guide, bless. Fire gently welcomed new lives, softly presided over marriages, quietly mourned those departed. In every life stage, fire provided quiet comfort, gentle guidance, steady presence. Your host's grandmother quietly approaches the hearth, now softly stirring embers with practiced movements, careful never to scatter sparks or disturb the fire's quiet dignity. Elderly women, traditionally responsible for maintaining the household fire, perform this task gently, respectfully, each movement slow, deliberate, dignified. The grandmother quietly hums again, barely audible, her voice blending perfectly with fire's soft crackle, creating a soothing lullaby. Outside wind softly whistles again, felt walls gently responding. You realize even this gentle breeze contributes quietly to fire's symbolism. Mongols traditionally believe fire and wind spirits work closely together. Wind softly fueling flames, fire quietly warming windswept steps. Together they gently maintain nature's delicate balance, softly protecting nomadic families who carefully respected both elements. Suddenly a small ember pops softly, gently startling you. Your host chuckles quietly, whispering gently, "Fire speaks too. Quietly but always listen." You smile softly, appreciating this gentle lesson. Jer etiquette involves quietly listening to fire, nature, spirits, ancestors, each other. The quiet conversations, gentle movements, soft rituals all revolve around fire's silent yet powerful presence. The youngest child quietly approaches, now softly placing a small object, perhaps a toy or personal charm, near the hearth's edge. Your host smiles gently, quietly whispering to you, "For protection." Another subtle tradition. Small items placed quietly near fires absorb warmth, blessings, protection from ancestral spirits softly watching over dear inhabitants. You suddenly feel gently moved, softly understanding how deeply integrated fire symbolism is within Mongol culture. Fire isn't simply warmth, it quietly symbolizes family life cycles, respectful relationships, spiritual balance. Slowly, gently, sleep pulls you again, softly guided by fire's warmth, Jir's quiet whispers, soft felt walls holding you comfortably. Tonight you've quietly learned much, but perhaps fire's gentle lesson resonates most deeply. Respectful warmth, quiet dignity, soft spiritual connections bind your life beautifully, quietly, powerfully. As your eyes close gently, your host softly whispers again, quietly echoing ancient traditions, "Fire will keep you safe tonight." Indeed, it will, softly protecting, gently warming, quietly guiding you into restful dreams. Sleep softly tugs at you, pulling gently with promises of peaceful rest, but before you surrender completely, you realize there's still one delicate aspect of Mongol etiquette you haven't explored yet, the quietly essential matter of nighttime manners. Specifically, what happens when nature gently calls beneath the wide starry sky of the Mongolian steppe. Nighttime bathroom etiquette might seem trivial compared to hearth rituals, threshold taboos, or carefully choreographed areg drinking, but even here, Mongol tent life whispers quietly respectful rules. Your host seems to sense your subtle curiosity. Quietly, gently amused, he leans slightly closer, whispering softly, "If you must go out, remember quiet steps, respectful paths." You nod silently, appreciating his gentle reminder. Your life maintains etiquette even at night, perhaps, especially then when ancestral spirits, nature itself, and fellow sleeping inhabitants deserve quiet consideration. Rising slowly, careful not to disturb your harmony, you move quietly toward the southern door, always clockwise, carefully avoiding the threshold. Your host gently gestures again, smiling softly, silently, reminding you of a careful foot placement. You smile softly back, whispering quiet thanks. Outside, night gently envelops you. Above, stars glitter softly, brilliantly, illuminating vast open steppe. Moonlight bathes everything, gently silver, illuminating quiet paths through soft grasses. You take slow, careful steps. No unnecessary noise, No rushed movements, etiquette carefully maintained even in solitude. Historically, Mongol nomads never casually relieved themselves near their jur or animals. Respectful distance was quietly maintained, both practically preventing contamination and spiritually honoring land spirits' ancestral guardians. Your guide whispered earlier that ancient traditions recommended quietly walking at least 50 respectful steps from your jur, enough distance to protect dignity, maintain cleanliness, respect ancestral boundaries. Tonight you quietly follow this gentle guidance, stepping softly across grassland, breathing night's fresh air, deeply savoring peaceful solitude beneath gently glowing stars. As your steps softly continue, your mind wanders quietly to Mongol spirituality land, deeply respected, quietly revered as sacred, each area gently inhabited by spirits. Even bathroom etiquette quietly acknowledges this spiritual interconnectedness, softly ensuring nature's dignity and balance. Finding a suitably distant spot beneath softly glowing stars, you handle your task quietly, carefully. Etiquette whispers softly again. Never relieve yourself uphill or upstream from camp. Practical common sense combined gently with spiritual respect. You carefully select downhill ground away from animals and water sources, softly ensuring your actions maintain quiet harmony. Finished, you quietly return toward the jir, retracing gentle steps, carefully, respectfully. Suddenly a gentle sound, a horse softly snorting nearby, reminds you of another quietly whispered etiquette rule. Mongol nomads traditionally avoided startling animals at night. Quietness, gentleness, respectfulness extended even to livestock softly sleeping near campsites. You slow your steps further, moving gently past resting horses, quietly, acknowledging their importance. Animals softly considered family members, valuable companions, respected beings. Disrupting their rest would be quietly disrespectful. Practically risky etiquette carefully ensures mutual safety harmony. Returning finally to your jir, you carefully avoid the sacred threshold again, quietly slipping inside. Warmth gently envelops you again. Fire softly glowing embers quietly illuminating sleeping inhabitants, peaceful jir interior. You softly breathe deeply, appreciative this nighttime journey, quietly reinforcing Mongol etiquettes, careful respectfulness, gentle mindfulness softly extended even into darkness. You softly settle again onto your bedding, gently pulling covers close, allowing warmth to softly soothe tired muscles, lull you closer towards sleep. Your host quietly notices your careful return, softly nodding approval, no words necessary. Even nighttime etiquette, carefully choreographed, gently learned, quietly performed. Outside night softly continues, stars gently shimmering, steps softly breathing beneath moonlight. You quietly realize your etiquette extends beyond felt walls, deeply interconnected with landscape ancestors, spiritual realms. Respectful behavior never ceases, gently guiding every action, movement, thought. Your host gently whispers again, softly sensing your peaceful reflections. Even nighttime has whispers. Indeed it does. Quiet lessons softly taught, etiquette gently maintained beneath starry skies, respectful steps carefully choreographed in moonlight. Sleep finally softly claims you again, gently embraced by Gur's quiet warmth. Softly guided by etiquette lessons subtly learned tonight, thresholds respected Erog, carefully accepted fire, quietly honored hair, gently considered nighttime manners softly observed. Your eyes gently close. Breathing softly slows, dreams quietly approach, guided gently by whispered etiquette, peaceful jir rhythms, softly glowing fire. Tonight you've quietly learned more than mere rules. You've softly experienced deeply respectful living, gentle mindfulness, quiet harmony carefully woven into Mongol tent life itself. Softly sleep draws you closer, quiet whispers gently fading jir, warmly holding you in gentle embrace. Your host softly murmurs one last whispered wish, gently echoing ancient traditions. Rest deeply, friend. Indeed, you will quietly, gently, peacefully tonight. You drift gently towards sleep again, cradled in the jir's peaceful warmth, but another soft whisper catches your attention. Your host is quietly conversing with another guest, exchanging gentle words and discreet smiles. Even in these softly spoken exchanges, another layer of jir etiquette reveals itself, the subtle art of gossip, gifts, and quietly shared snacks. Mongol Jir life isn't isolated, it thrives on quiet social interactions, gentle hospitality, carefully exchanged information, all wrapped in etiquette's soft whispers. Gossip, though rarely malicious, quietly shapes relationships, gently conveys community news, and subtly influences status. Even here, etiquette rules softly guide conversations, ensuring exchanges remain respectful, dignified, careful. You lean gently closer, not to eavesdrop rudely, but simply appreciating quiet communication methods. Voices remain softly hushed, never disrupting G or harmony, yet you notice subtle inflections, careful pauses, gentle laughter hinting at playful secrets new softly shared. Historically, gossip quietly held powerful roles within Mongol communities. Nomadic life required carefully maintained social bonds, gently managed information flow, subtle navigation of relationships. Gossip softly informed tribes of important news, births, marriages, livestock health. Weather changes, but etiquette ensured conversations remained quietly respectful, rarely harmful. Even tonight, conversations maintain these careful rules. Gently humorous anecdotes, subtly shared updates about neighboring families, livestock conditions, weather expectations. Your host gently chuckles at softly shared news, quietly responding with subtle appreciation, careful consideration. Gossip remains respectful, quiet, carefully controlled etiquette, softly maintaining community balance. Suddenly, your host quietly rises, softly approaching a small container near the hearth. Opening it gently, he retrieves carefully wrapped snacks, small pieces of dried goat cheese, or perhaps preserved fruit gently prepared earlier. He quietly offers snacks around, carefully handing each piece politely, gently smiling as guests softly accept. Gift giving and snack sharing gently demonstrate Mongol etiquettes, hospitality, generosity, respectful relationships. Even small snacks quietly symbolize friendship, mutual respect, softly strengthen bonds between hosts, guests, family. You carefully accept a snack piece, gently nodding appreciation, understanding etiquette, quietly requires grateful acceptance, refusal, softly suggesting disrespect or offense. Historians still debate precisely how gift-giving etiquette evolved among Mongols. Was it practical necessity, spiritual respect, subtle political strategy, or quietly blended combination? Regardless, etiquette rules remain gently consistent today. Carefully offer, politely accept, softly acknowledge gifts' deeper meanings. Your host gently settles again, softly whispering something to a guest, perhaps quietly explaining snack origins, preparation methods, subtly conveying respect for careful labor tradition behind even small treats. Snack sharing isn't merely practical. It quietly embodies hospitality, kindness, respectfulness central to Jir etiquette. Your gaze softly moves toward Jir walls again, carefully decorated with items guests gently gifted, previously woven scarves, embroidered fabrics, simple yet meaningful tokens, softly exchanged between visitors, hosts, friends, family. Gift-giving etiquette softly ensures tokens carefully displayed, respectfully treasured, gently acknowledged as relationship symbols, friendship affirmations. Quietly, another guest softly offers something to your host, perhaps small carved object delicately wrapped. Your host gently accepts, carefully unwrapping gift quietly, politely examining token, softly nodding appreciation. Gift-giving etiquette gently requires careful consideration, quiet acknowledgement, rushed acceptance, subtly disrespectful casual dismissal, gently offensive. Your host quietly murmurs appreciation, softly acknowledging thoughtful gift. The guest gently nods quietly. Please gift carefully received etiquette gently upheld mutual respect, softly reinforced. Suddenly, laughter softly ripples around Jer. Someone quietly shared humorous anecdote involving goat antics perhaps. Even humor maintains etiquette, never loud, raucous, disrespectful. Jer laughter remains gentle, quietly dignified, subtly shared among friends, guests, family. Etiquette quietly maintains humor's boundaries, gently funny, carefully respectful, never offensive or disruptive. Even laughter softly reinforces Yer's harmony, quiet warmth, carefully maintained relationships. Snack sharing continues gently, more quiet conversations, subtle smiles, softly exchanged news. Etiquette carefully choreographs interactions, gently guiding gossip gifts. Snacks humor into respectful, harmonious rhythms, softly strengthening bonds, quietly preserving traditions, gently enriching community life. Your host gently turns towards you again, softly offering another snack piece. Etiquette whispers gently again, careful acceptance, softly required. You gently nod, quietly accepting snack gratefully, quietly understanding deeper meaning behind simple gesture. Mongol etiquette softly ensures even small snack exchanges gently symbolize deeper relationships, quietly communicate respectfulness, subtly demonstrate harmony central to Jir life. Sleep softly approaches again, gently guided by Jir's quiet whispers, softly glowing fire, gentle rhythms carefully maintained through etiquettes, subtle lessons. Tonight thresholds respected era, quietly accepted fire, gently honored hair, carefully considered nighttime manners, softly observed gifts, quietly exchanged gossip, gently shared. You softly settle deeper into bedding, jeer, quietly enveloping you warmly etiquette lessons, gently resonating deeply tonight. Quiet whispers gently fade, soft sleep approaches, peaceful jeer rhythms, carefully guiding dreams tonight. Your host softly whispers again quietly, sensing your restful reflections gently echoing ancient traditions. Rest deeply, friend. Tomorrow more gentle lessons. Indeed, you will rest deeply, softly, quietly, peacefully tonight. Sleep hovers gently, softly, coaxing your tired mind, but your awareness gently rises again as your host quietly begins to gather items around the G-ear. This subtle movement signals something quietly significant, packing up, preparing for tomorrow's journey. You realize softly that G-ear etiquette doesn't end when settling down, it continues gently even when the G-ear itself must softly rise quietly, fold away, carefully move on. Your host's movements are deliberate, gentle practice, no rushed activity, no loud instructions. Instead, gear dismantling follows softly choreographed etiquette rules, just like daily life. Quiet cooperation, respectful teamwork, careful handling characterize every movement. Even packing up quietly symbolizes nomadic harmony, softly reflects respectful relationships central to Mongol etiquette. Slowly other inhabitants quietly rise gently, joining in the subtle choreography. Your host carefully unties ropes, softly removes small decorations, quietly placing each item carefully into felt-lined bags. Wooden chests. Nothing is casually discarded, roughly handled, every object quietly respected, softly treasured, gently prepared for movement. Historically, Mongol nomads moved frequently, often multiple times yearly, softly following grazing livestock, gently adapting to seasonal weather. Each move required gear, dismantling, packing, transportation, careful processes quietly performed according to etiquette's gentle rules, softly ensuring respectfulness, harmony, efficient practicality. As you watch, Gur dismantle and softly unfolds like elegant choreography, careful teamwork, gentle whispers, soft movements quietly synchronized. Felt walls carefully detached, softly rolled, gently secured. Wooden lattice frames quietly folded, gently stacked, respectfully handled. Roof poles softly removed, carefully bundled, quietly prepared for transport. Your host's grandmother softly hums again, barely audible, gentle tune, quietly matching movements, slow rhythms. Etiquette rules softly guide gear, dismantling respectful teamwork, careful handling, quiet communication, gently ensuring process unfolds smoothly, efficiently, respectfully. Historians still debate precisely how gear dismantling etiquette emerged. Was it purely practical, deeply spiritual, or quietly blended combination? Regardless, etiquette rules remain gently consistent today. Softly choreographed teamwork, careful movements, respectful handling, quietly ensuring gear dismantling maintains harmony, practicality, dignity. Suddenly you notice another softly significant gesture. Your host quietly sprinkles milk droplets gently around Jir's now exposed perimeter. This subtle ritual softly honors land spirits' ancestors, quietly thanking them for peaceful stay, gently asking blessings for upcoming journey. Etiquette softly ensures nomadic movements maintain respectful spiritual connections. Careful gratitude quietly expressed even during transitions. Outside gentle noises softly signal animal preparations too. Horses quietly saddled, camels gently loaded, livestock softly guided. Animal handling etiquette also carefully maintain quiet voices, gentle movements, respectful interactions, softly ensuring animals calmly cooperate comfortably. Participate in journey preparations. Your host gently approaches you again, softly whispering quietly, "Tomorrow we move. Tonight you rest." You smile gently, quietly understanding. Jur dismantling etiquette doesn't require every occupant participate. Guests, especially visitors, quietly permitted restful sleep, while hosts' family members softly prepare. Etiquette rules: gently protect guests' comfort, quietly demonstrate hospitality, respectfulness even during busy transitions. Slowly jeer, dismantling softly finishes. Felt walls, quietly packed wooden frames, gently stacked personal belongings, softly organized. Only essential items remain inside tonight, bedding, fire, minimal furnishings, softly allowing restful sleep. Etiquette quietly ensures even partial dismantling, carefully preserves Jir's peaceful warmth, gentle comfort, quiet dignity. Your host gently surveys preparations, softly nodding approval. Quiet teamwork, respectful etiquette, softly ensured. GER dismantling completed smoothly, harmoniously, efficiently tonight. Tomorrow's journey quietly prepared, tonight's rest gently assured. Sleep softly returns again, gently coaxing tired muscles, quiet mind, peaceful spirit. Jir's soft warmth, quiet whispers, gentle rhythms, gently lull you again, softly guided by etiquette lessons. Quietly learned tonight, carefully observed during Jir dismantling. You softly settle again onto bedding, gently pulling covers close softly, allowing warmth to soothe you again. Sleep quietly approaches once more, guided gently by Jir's peaceful rhythms. Etiquette's subtle lessons, softly glowing fire, quietly illuminating now minimal Jir interior. Outside animals softly settle again, preparations quietly completed. Stars gently shimmer above quiet steps, softly illuminating peaceful night. Etiquette softly ensured Jir dismantling preserved respectful harmony. Quiet dignity, gentle practicality central to Mongol nomadic traditions. Your host gently whispers again, softly sensing your restful reflections, quietly echoing ancient traditions, softly maintained even tonight rest, deeply friend. Tomorrow new horizons softly await. Indeed you will rest deeply tonight, quietly, gently, peacefully embraced by Jir's warmth. Etiquette's quiet lessons softly resonating deeply. Tomorrow's journey quietly prepared, tonight's sleep gently assured, careful etiquette ensuring harmony softly continues even amid gentle transitions. Softly your eyes close again. Breathing gently slows, dreams quietly approach, guided gently by Jir's whispers. Etiquette's rhythms, peaceful traditions softly preserved tonight. Sleep draws near once more, gently pulling your consciousness into restful comfort, but as your eyelids softly drift closed, you sense a subtle shift around you. This is the deer's final gentle whisper, the quiet farewell ceremony that accompanies any Mongol departure. Etiquette never sleeps here, not even when saying goodbye. Your host and his family softly gather once more near the fire, its quiet embers glowing gently, illuminating their careful preparations for a silent farewell ritual. In Mongol tradition, departures are always respectfully marked, even in the quiet darkness before dawn. The host gently pours fresh tea, carefully placing cups in a small circle around the hearth, softly symbolizing unity, respect, gratitude. The elder grandmother quietly murmurs prayers, her voice soft, barely audible, gently invoking blessings for safe travels, peaceful transitions, harmonious futures. Your host softly invites you to join, carefully gesturing toward the circle. You rise, gently approaching, quietly remembering etiquette rules, softly learned tonight. You quietly sit, carefully joining family members, softly feeling their quiet welcome, gentle acceptance, etiquette subtly binding you together once more. Historically, Mongol farewells weren't loud or emotional. Instead, they were softly dignified, quietly respectful, gently reaffirming community bonds, ancestral connections, spiritual harmony. Etiquette carefully guided departures, softly ensuring they reflected deep respectfulness central to Jer life. Outside dawn approaches softly, first faint glimmers quietly appearing, gently illuminating vast step beyond felt walls. Winds softly whisper, gently rustling grasses, quietly promising new journeys, gentle transitions carefully guided by etiquette's subtle lessons. Your host carefully pours a few drops of tea gently onto the hearth, softly murmuring, quiet thanks to fire's warmth, ancestral spirit's protection, nature's quiet generosity. Each family member gently repeats this subtle gesture softly, expressing personal gratitude, respectful acknowledgement. Historians still debate precise origins of Mongol farewell rituals. Were they purely spiritual, practical, or quietly blended combination? Regardless, etiquette rules remain gently consistent today. Quiet gestures, respectful acknowledgement, subtle gratitude softly marking every departure. The elderly woman gently hums again softly, blending quiet melodies into farewell ceremony, gentle tune quietly invoking ancestral protection, peaceful journeys, harmonious transitions. Etiquette softly ensures departures are not simply practical. They're quietly meaningful, gently spiritual, deeply respectful. Slowly the quiet farewell ceremony gently concludes. Family members softly rise, quietly preparing final items, gently checking belongings, carefully ensuring everything ready for peaceful journey ahead. Etiquette softly guides these final preparations. Quiet cooperation, gentle movements, respectful teamwork, carefully choreographing every step. Your host softly approaches you, again gently offering one last small token, a simple scarf softly embroidered, carefully folded. Quiet etiquette rules gently require careful acceptance, grateful acknowledgement. You softly take scarf, gently nodding appreciation, quietly understanding deeper meaning behind simple gift. Quietly, softly, your host whispers, remember us gently, travel peacefully. You nod again softly, promising gentle memories, peaceful reflections. Etiquette quietly ensures even farewells softly communicate respectful intentions, harmonious wishes. Outside animals quietly stir again softly, signaling journey's approach. Felt walls gently whisper as morning breeze softly touches them, quietly promising new horizons, gentle transitions ahead. Etiquette softly ensures departures remain peaceful, respectful, harmonious. Even gear itself gently participates, quietly releasing inhabitants toward careful journeys. Your host gently opens the gear door now, softly welcoming first faint morning light, quietly signaling journey's gentle beginning. Etiquette softly ensures even door opening, carefully respects threshold sacred symbolism, gently maintaining spiritual balance during departures. You quietly step outside, softly breathing morning's fresh air, gently savoring steepe's vast openness, quiet beauty softly illuminated by dawn's gentle glow. Your host quietly joins you, softly surveying landscape, gently preparing animals, carefully ensuring respectful departure etiquette maintained. Together, softly, quietly, you gently acknowledge peaceful night spent, careful lessons learned, respectful etiquette, softly guiding every interaction, conversation, gesture tonight. Your host gently smiles softly, sensing your deep reflections, quietly acknowledging shared understanding, gentle friendship softly formed. Slowly, animals quietly prepared journey softly begins. You gently mount horse, carefully guided by hosts, respectful instructions, quietly appreciating etiquette lessons gently learned tonight. Departure etiquette, softly maintained respectful goodbyes, quietly exchanged peaceful transitions gently assured. Your hostess softly whispers one final quiet farewell, gently echoing ancient Mongol traditions carefully preserved tonight. Travel softly, friend. May quiet winds gently guide you. Indeed, quiet winds softly guide you, peaceful etiquette lessons, gently shaping every step, softly whispered memories carefully carried into journey's quiet beginnings. As you gently ride away from the jar, dawn softly bathes the vast Mongolian steppe in gentle golden hues. Your journey begins quietly, softly guided by etiquette lessons subtly learned through whispered conversations, careful gestures, gentle movements tonight. The G-ear slowly recedes behind you softly, becoming a warm memory gently held, quietly cherished. The rhythm of hoofbeats gently blends with morning's soft whispers, quietly carrying you toward peaceful horizons, gentle possibilities softly awaiting. Etiquette lessons tonight weren't merely rules. They softly reveal deeper truths, quiet respectfulness, Gentle mindfulness, harmonious coexistence carefully woven into Mongol tent life itself. Sleep gently approaches again, softly coaxing tired muscles, quiet mind, peaceful spirit. You softly surrender, now gently trust in etiquette's quiet wisdom to softly guide your dreams, peacefully accompany restful sleep. Tonight's lessons softly resonate deeply, quietly reassuring, gently comforting, softly ensuring peaceful rest. As you drift gently towards sleep, you softly recall Jur's quiet whispers, gentle warmth, careful rituals, respectful traditions subtly shared tonight. Each gentle lesson softly shaped your understanding, quietly deepened respectfulness, gently enriched appreciation for Mongol etiquette's quiet beauty. Quietly, gently, peacefully, your eyelids softly close, breathing. Quietly, slow sleep softly embraces you now. Etiquette lessons gently learned tonight quietly guide dreams, softly illuminating peaceful paths, gently revealing harmonious truths, carefully whispered within ears, softly felt walls. Tonight, softly rest deeply, gently carried by etiquette's quiet wisdom, peaceful rhythms, gentle whispers softly shared within warm, welcoming jeer tonight. Sweet dreams, dear friend, softly, quietly, gently tonight.